Good day, everyone, and welcome to the Medium's Porch. I am your host, Kathleen Bolt, and here on the Medium's Porch, we come together to examine, discuss, and explore the service, spiritual process, the privilege, and the power of communicating with the spirit world. And this show is connected to the Lilydale radio program schedule, programs brought to you by the volunteers of the spiritualist community in Lilydale. And we bring on guests and talk about subjects. And we're very happy to have you here, especially if it's your first time. We really hope you enjoy our show. And be sure to check out on the Lilydale Assembly Facebook page the listings in the video section of all the other programming that we've done in the past. I think they've been doing this for about 7 years or so. So welcome if it's your first time, and of course, so glad to have you back if you've been here before. And today is a really I'm excited. This is going to be a fun show. We are here to talk about art and healing and mediumship and how it all comes together and the journey of the soul through that process. And so our guest today is doing one of the things that a lot of people do in Lilydale. They come from around the globe, and he's coming in from the United Kingdom this summer to offer a workshop in tandem with his collaborating partner, Penny Hayward, who I had interviewed in an earlier Medium's Porch session. So please do check that out later after the show, after today's show. And there'll be lists and links below on the posting here that you'll be able to click to learn more about about Lilydale, about our show, the program, the Medium's Porch, about our guest. So without further ado, I want to jump right into it. I'd like you to meet Richard Stuttle. Hello, Richard.
Hi, Kathleen. Thank you for the invitation. It's a privilege to be here.
I'm so glad you're here. And Richard is not only a medium, he is, I take it you're a spiritualist, right?
I am a spiritualist, yes.
Okay, yeah. He's studied at Arthur Findlay College. He has studied at the Harry Edwards, is it the Institute or is it the School of Healing?
It's actually called Harry Edwards Foundation now, but it's Harry Edwards Healing Sanctuary is what we're known as.
And you have an important position to make that run. You said that there's a trustee component to that.
Yeah, so I did the healing course, and of course, going through that, it's a 2-year process. And shortly after I'd completed that, they were looking for new trustees to join the board. And see where the future of healing was, and to really bring in that next generation and that excitement for healing. So I was more than happy to get involved, and very grateful that they accepted me onto the board. And it's a great privilege. But I'm really interested in the healing aspects and where Harry's legacy took him to in his generation, and where we can go in the future.
Right. And we can talk a little more about that influence on you a little later. I want people to understand also that you have not only expressed spirit communication, but you've also been trained as an artist, right? You were doing art through the years. Your father himself was an artist, and so you picked up some stylistic and some values, I know, based on what he proposed and taught you, and what you could model after him. And then you've made it your own through the years. You're well-traveled, right? You've traveled the world, which is wonderful. And I'd love to hear a little more about how our experiences inform our work, and especially your work in mediumship and healing. You have been around and teaching yourself. Have you not at Arthur Findlay, or are you not teaching there just yet? I know you're traveling and teaching.
I'm traveling and teaching wherever they'll have me, basically, which is a lovely opportunity. I'm on the training program. I'm working my way. There's a lot of courses and education, because to work at Arthur Findlay College, they want the highest of caliber. So I'm on the road to get there. I was very privileged to have the opportunity. They've just done Open Week, which they do every year. And I had the opportunity to do a demonstration with Penny in the sanctuary, a couple of workshops, and a host of private readings, which was a wonderful privilege.
Nice. Yeah, we're looking forward to that very much. You're coming into Lilydale this summer, and you are doing a 4-day program, and then also a demonstration, right at the end of the series. I believe it's the last day, the August 2nd. So you're here from the 29th, at least teaching from the 29th to the 2nd of August, and you'll be working with Penny. Can you tell us a little more about this course? Because I have links below so people can go on and register for it. You can take it as a block, or we can take and sign up for individual days. So can you tell us a little more about your course?
Yeah, of course. Thank you. So it's a journey through healing, through mediumship, through spirit art, and that journey through color. The 4 days are interlinked. So the 4 days will teach each different element. So we look at healing, we look at the meaning of color, we look at portrait, we look at spirit art, and then we look at the altered states. And we look at healing specifically, and then how we can combine the art, the creativity, that connection with the spirit world, that connection with the recipient, and how we can hold space, that energy attunement, and that holding space for, if you're doing a demonstration to the public, how we can get the most out of that, or if we're doing the one-to-ones and the private readings, the auragraphs, those kind of things, how we can really focus that energy and bring that feeling and that emotion from the spirit world. So the 4 days, each day is a different focus. A couple of the days have evening sessions as well. And then we finish the week with a demonstration. Penny and I demonstrate together quite frequently. And it's just a great energy between us. And it's really nice for certainly the people who are visiting, or the students that have been on the course, to see us demonstrate, to see how all of those little elements fit together in one demonstration. So really excited, a real privilege to be invited again. So thank you ever so much to everybody at Lilydale. We are so excited to come over and to work. It's a great honor.
Now, what would you say to the person that is intrigued by this class, but they themselves don't consider themselves artists, or they've developed that block in their mind that they don't draw, they can't draw?
Oh, you don't need to be an artist. It's not a requirement at all. You just have to have an interest in creativity, an interest in color, an interest in tapping into your own essence and working with the spirit, that intuition, that intuitive self that asks those questions. What color am I going to wear today? What jumper am I going to pick out of the wardrobe? What foods am I drawn to? All of these different things that you're already doing. We're all artists already, whether we realize it or not. There's a difference between the skills and the tools that the spirit world can use. So if they want to use me to draw portraits, I've got to train and practice my portraits. If I can't draw an eye, the spirit world can't say, oh, I'm impressed, there's a green eye coming through and they've got a glint in the eye and this is the shape of the eye. If I've never drawn an eye before, the spirit world can't work through my skills. So learning the skills is one thing, but having that interest in color and just opening your mind to that freedom of color. And the first step to that is, well, what is the meaning behind color? What does yellow mean? What does red mean? And what does it mean within this moment? So we've got such a great opportunity. Spirit world see our language as color. We feel their vibrations and we can feel that energy step in as we work with the spirit. Well, let's see if we can use a little bit from the conscious mind to widen our bandwidth and understanding, to give that frequency, give that feeling a color. And if we can start to do that, we can make it more impactful for our recipient. We can make it more impactful for the group. But we can bring that essence of what the spirit world is trying to communicate, because we can say so much in one color. If I give you the color of red, you will have a meaning and a feeling with that color of red. And that's exactly where the starting point, where we will begin on the first day of the workshop, is that meaning of color. And then how we can use that to create that link and strengthen that communication with the spirit.
So color is very subjective too, right? I mean, if I were to look at the color yellow in front of me, I might be triggered for some experience that I had in the past, or I might just feel refreshed and woken up. And again, the hue and the tone and, you know, the type of yellow, because I could say the word yellow to you and you might picture canary yellow, whereas I could say yellow to someone else, they might have more of a mustardy color that they're thinking. Can you talk a little bit about the nuances of color in that regard and how it affects our languaging and understanding of energy as it's exchanged.
Most certainly, and this is where the visuals really come in. And this is where we can start to talk. And luckily, here's one I prepared earlier. There's a sheet of paper. So we can just talk a little bit about colour and just a little bit of the opportunity that we've got with that one colour. So if I start off, and I start off very simply with that colour of red.
Yes.
That opportunity, that brightness, that rich colour, that beautiful colour of red. And being aware that when we start to put this colour on the paper, you will have a reaction to that. You will have a feeling, an emotion that comes from you with that colour of red. And as you say, it's a bright red. What kind of red does it conjure up for you? What feeling, what memory, what emotion? And this is where we start to tap in, and certainly tap into that psychic connection with people, but also to tap into that mediumistic connection. Because what we've got here is an opportunity. So I've got what this colour means to me as the medium. So this colour means red, this means passion, this means excitement for this opportunity and this energy today that I'm feeling. So we've got what it means to me as the medium. We've got what it means to you as the recipient and how I feel about that colour for you. What's coming back to me from your energy. We've then got what it means for the energy of this moment. So what's this meaning here within this moment now? And we've got what it means to the spirit communicator. So just from that one colour, I don't have to say a word. I can just blend it slightly and I can start to feel into it. And we've got 4 directions to go. So it's a really huge opportunity. Yes. And you've got where we can just start.
I'm like, this is so broad. This is so, you know, a person could look at this and say that's complex, but it's a natural process for us, right? To ease into any one of those 4 places.
It's this is where the mediumship, and we start to link in with the mediumship. So we can say, right, we can take that vibration and that energy of that red, and we can feel that. We can soften that down a bit, because for some people, they will feel that red quite intensely. And other people will feel it in a more softer, a more inclusive way. So it's the job of the medium then to feel where that energy sits within us and where that energy sits with the spirit communicator. So as we talk about this and we start to develop this red, there's a nice way and a nice method that we can talk about. I just want to make one point really with this that's sort of coming in quite strongly, that the red is only, and you touched upon it, subjective to this moment. So if I'm walking on the beach with a loved one, then red means love, it means passion, it means all those lovely feelings, that intensity that you feel here. If I'm driving in my car, it means stop. It's very much subjective to the moment. So we allow that feeling, we allow that colour to come into our awareness, and we allow that connection to build. So if we're talking about this with the spirit and linking in with the spirit world, what do they normally come through? They normally come through with that passion they had in this life. They come through with that intensity. And we can take that as the colour of red. So they're stepping forward with, I love this about my life. My life on the earth plane was absolutely fantastic. I've got a great connection with you. We start to build that connection and that rapport with the spirit communicator. What we've then got an opportunity to do is start to take in that colour and work with our mediumship. So we can go, right, well, what do we want? We want information. What is mediumship? First and foremost, it's providing evidence of life after death, life when we pass to the spirit world. So we need information about the spirit communicator. We need to know who they are. We need to know what they did. We need to know something about the mind of the spirit communicator, something about the body, the physicality, and something about the soul. Something about their purpose here. So we've got those 3 elements. So if I start to bring in another colour, we've got this connection with the spirit. We can then say, well, actually, I feel this richness here. I feel this earthy colour that seems to step in. And I know that this is to do with the body of the spirit communicator. This is to do with their connection in this. And I feel that they were an outdoors person. I feel there was gardening. I feel they had a strong connection with Mother Earth. So we can go from that red and we can step in to maybe the body of the person, the physicality of the person. If we bring another colour in, to do with the mind of the spirit communicator. We can then say, well, I've got this blue. So I know, and this blue within this moment signifies that freedom of thought. So I know that this person was a reader. I know that they liked the different books around fantasy. They like the science fiction books, or they like the thrillers, those kind of books. So we've stepped into a little bit of the mind of the spirit communicator. So we've gone from the body and the mind, and then we can step more strongly into the soul. So we've got this other opportunity here, this passion they had. Well, this orange for me says in this time that they liked healing, and the healing was important, that energy of healing and that sensitivity, because it's a sensitive color. So we've gone from that one color of that initial connection, we've stepped into the body of the spirit communicator, we've stepped into the mind of the spirit communicator, and we've stepped into the soul. So those three aspects that really make us up, and we can then delve in deeper to that. So we can then start to evolve this color and add colors, add symbols. We get imagery. We start working then with the clairsenses. So what do we feel about this color? What images are coming to mind? We're working with the clairsentience, the clairvoyance. What am I hearing with this color? Am I hearing the rustle of leaves? Oh, well, that says to me it's autumn or fall time. Is there a memory there? Is there something there? And the same here with the soul's purpose, the healing. Well, where did they work in the healing profession? Was there something around caring towards the end of their life? And the same with the mind of the spirit communicator. Well, I know that they liked fiction. I know that they liked this information. I know that their mind works. They were very quick-minded. They were sharp. And I know they were sharp towards the end. And then we start to feel that. And we can use the color as a starting point where we can step into these three aspects of a spirit communicator. Does that kind of make sense, or a little bit?
Totally does. And what I've been noticing as you've been working here, not only are you multitasking in the sense of your capacity to speak at the same time that you're putting color down, you're letting go into the flow of it. You're not thinking, oh, I need this color to convey the following thing. There's no separation between this is my experience of spirit, I think about it, and then I put the color that's appropriate. So you haven't gone to a list that says blue means this, red means that. You're in the experience in the moment. And I can see that also when you're working with your tool as well, because even watching you do it, and when you did the blending of the pastel there's that sense of movement and flow, but you're viscerally involved as well. So that's, if you're clairsentient, you can work with that, right? I mean, you don't have to put it in a box, I guess is what I'm saying. It's about being in the whole experience, and the color gives us that depth and form. That's depth that creates the form.
Exactly that. So there's you were spot on in what you were saying. That it allows the conscious mind to go to something else. So we can talk freely, we can talk spontaneously within the moment, we can work directly with the spirit, and the color is just a gateway. The meaning of color comes in the same as I practice to draw eyes. That is the work and the skill that is done beforehand. So one of the ways that we look at that is, well, what are the different meanings for blue? What are they for me? What are they for you? What are they for the spirit communicator? What blue is this moment? And what shade of blue is this moment? And we can do all of that work. That is the training, because very much when they talk about getting on the platform or doing the one-to-ones, you step up with nothing. And you step up, not knowing what's going to happen, not knowing who's going to come through. I mean, it's a nerve-wracking experience. But the comfort that we have is we've not got nothing, we've got everything we need. So it's a flip on that we've done the work. I have drawn 1,000 eyes. I have understood what this blue means for me, for the spirit communicator, the various meanings that I've widened my bandwidth and I've broadened my capacity so that I can work spontaneously, giving what the spirit communicator actually wants to convey for the recipient. It's not what I want, it's what the spirit communicator wants, and how we can bring the essence of that healing and bring the essence of that color through to maybe to you as the recipient, and bring through that flow, because you can get so much more from that freedom of the blue with the mind than I can say in words. You can get that information through the color as well. which is so beautiful. So it's such a wonderful opportunity and so exciting to work with that color. But it does, as you rightly say, it frees up because you're drawing, because you're doing that. You're not thinking about what you're talking about, or you're thinking about the drawing, and your focus is shifting. So you are more authentic and more natural. There's less of you within the communication, if that makes sense.
It does. And it also allows your spirit to be free and be a part of the spiritual experience that's happening. And I love the word art, because I've often thought of mediumship as an art. I know a lot of people talk, well, a lot of people, it's been written that spiritualism is an art, is a science, is a religion, and is a philosophy. But I also believe spiritualism itself, as well as, because living as a spiritualist is the art, I feel. And then being the medium, that is an art as well. It's a creative act. And so one of our principles is that, you have this evolutionary process that can continue here, whether you're incarnate or discarnate, that process never stops. So when you bring art to it and you add that form and color, you're encompassing the whole picture. You're painting, as Janet Nahavik used to say, you're painting people back to life.
I love that. What a lovely.
Yeah, it's a great saying that she said, and it's always stuck for me, because that's what you're trying to do with words. But this takes it to another level, because you can layer it with the words, you can layer it with the color. So you're hitting people on all levels in terms of their consciousness that are perceiving it, right? You're not just going into the words and saying, because I know in the mediumship experience, sometimes I'll use a word and the person will be like, not comprehending what I'm saying. They'll be, well, that doesn't mean, that word doesn't mean anything. But if I had had that word with a color, then something would have been absorbed, right? Because their sensitivity to feel the person in the room may not be there. But color is something, because we're such a visual world, people can actually, they know how to work with. They just navigate through it without consciousness half the time, right?
Yeah,
so I love what you're saying. I'm just trying to put in words what you've already said.
No, it's
feel around that myself.
Yeah, it's great, and that's what it is. It's that discussion and that talking about that understanding of color. So what we're doing with that blue is we're giving your words context, and we're giving that healing. We're allowing a more immersive experience and connection with the spirit, because you're getting a visual representation as well as an oral representation. So what we're doing, we're able to convey that on an energetic level, and we're allowed to cascade through that physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual self. Those different aspects of us that we can take on more of that healing. We can feel more of that love. What are we looking for this spirit communication? Well, the art is such a wonderful thing. If we can draw a portrait and we can bring a portrait through that looks just like the spirit communicator and is recognizable by the recipient or the sitter. But also we're wanting that emotional connection. We're wanting to feel the presence of our loved ones. And if this was the shade of blue that they had of their curtains in their house, or if this was something that conjured up a memory of when they were laid on the grass looking up at the blue skies and they could feel the grass around them, they can feel that color, they can see the daisies, that are around on the ground, we can create a scene and an emotional experience for the recipient where they can really embody those memories, embody that essence and that energy and that frequency that the spirit communicator is wanting to bring forward. Because very often it's those times and those little keys of this memory when they were there. This last time that we held hands, the time that you read to me as a child, all these special moments in life that is precious moments and the energy for the spirit communicator, but also a very precious and special moment for the recipient that can really bring forward that energy. And what we're looking at is that underpinning energy of healing. So we're looking for healing from the spirit, that communion from the spirit with people in this world.
And, a lot of people, I think, have not understood, in the bigger scheme of things, haven't understood abstract art, because they're not allowing themselves to move into the dimensionality that's right there in front of them and let themselves have that experience, because they've been so conditioned to have a literal face. So I know I don't know a lot of people statistically in the United States that use orographs or do. There are a few. There's a handful, and as you explain it, it makes me wonder why we're not all doing it. Like why we're not all bringing this tool and this point of expression to our clients. It just, like you said, it's so all encompassing in terms of its ability to bring knowledge through and connection through. And I know that word connection is actually, now that I've said it out loud, word connection is very important for you. I've seen it in a lot of your videos and it comes up a lot. And I love that word because, well, I've been using it for years, connect with spirit. And I like the dual meaning that can have, connect with your own spirit, connect with joy, connect with, but connection is something that we tend to think it has to be a very specific thing. And I love that your art, bringing art into it, allows you the opportunity to go beyond what the literal connection means and the labels and into something with more depth. So if we brought something, can you talk a little more about orographs and how they serve people in the client setting?
Yeah, of course. And it is. And what we're doing, I mean, if people just saw that now and didn't hear my explanation or what we were talking about with that would just look like an abstract piece of art, and maybe they'd get it, maybe they'd understand, or maybe they'd feel it. But to really understand it, you have to feel and understand the process that the artist went through. And that's such a great opportunity that we've got with the orographs, is we can make a starting point. So a gentleman called Harold Sharp developed and coined the phrase orograph, and he came up and it was done in a circle. So that circle was to represent that connection or that inclusivity of the life and pushing within this world. So that was really the starting point. There were different symbols and things, and they were channeled through him when he was in a trance state, and came through his guide. So it's like using the oracle cards or the tarot or whatever your discipline is, that you can start to bring information. And there's the generic meaning for within the tarot, within the oracle cards, or within the books that you read. But then as the medium, you can go one step further. You can start to make that specific. So if we were working with this as potentially an orograph, and we were starting to look within this, and we were starting to bring that circle together, we would then say and start to go one step further with the spirit communicator. So we know that we've got this. We know that we've got this feeling and this way with this person. Well, we could start to bring in a bit of a landscape, and we could say, well, look, there's something on top of the hill, whether that's symbolic, whether that's something else. We can start to make this specific. Well, now suddenly this has become the sun for the sunset.
Immediately, right?
Immediately. So now we can start to say, oh, well, hang on, well, let's bring in this connection. And because this was where the soul area was, we can leave that and the reflection of the sunset. And we can start to bring in, we'll say, well, their soul was really connected with the earth. That was really their connection. They were a child of nature. And then we can start to bring in, well, the healing was really important. So as we start to work in, we can bring in the different colours of the yellow. And we can say, oh, actually, as I'm filling in this, I realised that they had a full life. They've completed everything. There was no stone left unturned. So what we've done by simply just moving that into another phase is we've created or started to create an orograph. We've done it the different way round. But the opportunity, what we've got now from this point, is then we can start to take it one step further because we're artists. And this is where the orograph will start to go. So I could have something generic and have that as a starting point. But then let's go on that journey together. So I know that there was a journey that you've gone on. And I know that there was two people that went on this journey that was specific to you. And I know as I say that and we talk about the spirit, that there are a few people who are in the spirit world that are looking after you. So as the artist, I can start to unfold this and I can start to add different elements that are unique to the sitter, to the recipient, using our creativity and using art. So we can start with something generic, the same as we would with the oracle card, but then we see different things, or we look at it upside down. We look at it from a different perspective. We start to bring in that energy and say, oh, well, did you see, do you understand, do you feel this color of green that's in it? Because that's really jumping out at me. Do you feel that yellow that's in it? I feel the yellow is significant for you. So we can start to make it unique. We can start to really play and evolve that, and we can bring in these different things and the elements. And again, I'm taken to the sunsets, I'm taken to the different colors here. Again, you get me started on art, I can just go and create. One of the beautiful things about this, or the autographs, or about creating something like this, I wouldn't be able to do it myself. I can only do it with the connection and the energy of the recipient and the spirit communicator. It's not my style of drawing, it's not my style of art. But because we're working in that energy, and because we're connected with the spirit and we can feel that energy of the spirit, we can create something that we couldn't create alone. And this is the power of art when we're working with our spirituality and our mediumship, is you go, well, that doesn't look like my normal art, doesn't look like the art that I would create. And we can go one step further because we've got that collective energy that can push us a little bit further. So this is the wonderful thing, and I'll go back to the workshops and the group work, that however many are in the group, we create that collective energy that we can all push one level further than what we could individually. Does that kind of it makes sense? Yeah.
Absolutely.
So it's a really interesting way. So with every workshop and with every demonstration, it's always unique. And there's drawings that I'd never create again, that I couldn't create again. There's energy and things that happen, and inspired exercises and things that just come directly from the spirit that I have never done previously and won't ever do again. And I know that's similar to how Penny works. That's why we work so well together, that you go with the flow of the group energy, knowing that I've done the work and knowing that she's done the work. So we hold space and we give the community, as you say, with the same with the mediumship, you give them what they need at that time. But it's such a wonderful thing. And again, someone could pick up that now and just take that and do a completely different reading for somebody.
True. Yeah.
Because it's unique. It's unique to that person in that moment. They could add their own colours. They could start to add things, and they could start to think outside the box. So they don't need to stay within that circle. They can start to know. And the energy, as I put the blue around, will completely change. And this is, again, is another wonderful opportunity that we've got when we work with the spirit, is we can change the energy. We can change the perspective of things through the art as we journey through the picture together. And this is the same with the demonstrations. Very much so. Sometimes they just start with a color before I know whether it's a male or a female, or what, whether it's a grandmother or a young man. I don't know. But it starts with a color. And it starts with that energy, that passion that they had for this life, that frequency that connects with something within me, that I can bring that need through to the recipient. So we've got such a wonderful journey and inspiration that we can pull from our creativity. And we're all creative. We've all got that capacity within, as you said about connection earlier. And just to sort of sum that up, is I feel that we've always got that connection. What we're doing is we're drawing our awareness to it. We're always connected to nature. We're always connected to our loved ones in the spirit. But our conscious mind then creates and just pushes our awareness to that. So we are connected to spirit. We are connected to nature. But it's always running in the background.
I love this, because often when I'm giving messages and I'm working with spirit, I feel like I'm not giving them the whole picture, right? There's a sophistication, there's a depth, there's the multiplicity of meaning in a single thing, like what happened with the sun, right? You started with the circle. When you had the hard edge, I didn't relate to it when you had the hard edge. Soon as you soften that edge, I'm like, I felt like a little girl, all excited all of a sudden. And I couldn't tell you for a second why that happened, but it completely changed my relationship with that mark that you made on that page. Mm-hmm. And I find in the mediumship that happens, but sometimes I don't have what it takes to help somebody else get there. And I love this because it's not my job to get them there. I realize that spirit's there doing that while I'm giving the message. I just have the desire to do that. And with the imagery, I know for sure the subconscious is now getting engaged, like what happened for me, right? I mean, I had that woo, little kid thing. And I couldn't, like I said, I couldn't tell you. I mean, sure, it looked like a sun as soon as you put that horizon in.
But that's the
Immediately.
wonderful thing, isn't it? And that's the way that we get the confirmation for the conscious mind. Because there was something that told me to soften that. I didn't know why I was doing it. I just trusted that that's what I needed to do. And now you've given the confirmation to me that that was right within the moment for you to have a deeper connection with that color. So this is how we do. The conscious mind is almost playing catch up after the fact.
Yes, it does, doesn't it?
That's where the confirmation comes for our spiritual development, or for the workshops, or for anything like that. That you're going, I'm inspired in the moment, and then someone says, oh, well, when you did that, I felt it. And you go, yes, that's the confirmation. Thank you very much. But don't get that drawn away from the instinctive nature of that connection and working within the moment. But what we've got an opportunity with the art, or even just one color. I mean, we've got it where we just go and get a leaf or a flower from nature, and you can just draw people's attention to a certain element. Have you seen the way that that leaf bends around, or that petal, or the colors within that petal? And you can allow that connection from the spirit, so they're not overwhelmed with that emotion. They're not having too much in that way. So you can control that flow of energy by allowing them to connect, giving them the moment, holding that space for them, and then allowing them to have that deeper resonance, and then you can continue. And art gives us such a wonderful opportunity to do that, because they can go on their own journey through that. And if that was an aurograph for somebody, they can go on their own journey. They can take that away and they can just sit with it. And they say, well, which color comes out today? And it's not like there's anything specific or anything that's going to pull on their energy field. It's them opening their intuition and their connection to their spirit and the spirit communicator, or the information that came through. And they can go on their own journey through that art.
Now, when you talk about journey through the art, I know part of your programming is going to be designed based on, your expression of it, on allowing the mediums that attend, or the healers that attend, or the people that are interested in this, to go through a personal discovery process, to go through the experience of transformation themselves by the act of creating art. Can you talk a little bit more about that power, about how art and moving into this, working with spirit through art, can be healing and can be supportive and help in self-discovery?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a common thing that maybe isn't mentioned too much when people are attending workshops or classes, or they come with an idea of, I want to strengthen my mediumship. I want to strengthen my connection with the spirit. But really what that is that inner journey into understanding self. The more you go on that inner journey. So that's why they go through this, sometimes a very turbulent process through the week, or through the weekend, or however long the workshops are or the training is, that they go on this whole journey. And it can be, I feel fantastic, and that last message was amazing, and I'm on top of the world, to, oh, I don't know, I didn't understand it. But that's that journey of self-discovery. And that's exactly what we're doing through art. And this is where we go back to, what does that color mean for you? The first thing we do before we do anything is we check in with ourselves. How am I feeling physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually? If I check in with myself, I know where I am. So I know that the information coming in is not me. Then all my job is to work out, is that for you? Is that from spirit? Is that within the moment? So we know where we are and we sit with it. The wider our bandwidth, the more range we've got to connect with the healing of a recipient. You can't teach something you don't know. You can't convey that emotion and that capacity of healing unless you've had a similar or something around that experience. And this is where the life experience, the journey through color, the journey through art and creativity is something that is almost a fast track for people. You can open up that journey very quickly, and you can open them up to going, right, well, this blue now, when I first started, that blue just meant sky. Now it means this, this, and this, and this. So what you've done is you've added to your repertoire 4 or 5 different meanings for that one shade of one color that now the spirit world can work with. And then, oh, if I add red, it becomes purple. Well, where does that sit within me, right? What does purple mean? Bang, bang, bang. 3 or 4 different variants on that color purple. So it's a great journey of self-discovery. I think all of this work with the attunement and with all of that is that, well, where does it sit with me? Every medium is unique. Every medium works in their own way. But what we've got is a commonality through art, through creativity, that we all see that as blue. Or the majority of us see that as blue. But what shade of blue we see is unique to us. And that's where that journey really begins, when you can start to go, well, what shade of blue do you see? How does that blue link to your past experiences? How does that blue link to what part of their timeline? Is this a memory for a spirit communicator when they were a child? Was it when they had their last memory with you? Was it halfway through their life? Was it to do with their working life? Was it to do with their downtime or their creativity? So it's just that starting point to really understand, well, where do they want to go with this? So that inner journey is really an inner journey of widening your bandwidth. The more you work with different people, the more you widen your bandwidth, then the greater range of recipients and spirit communicators you can work with. Because very often you find I always get artists or people who are interested in creativity, because that's where they connect with me, because that's my interest. But the more you work with different people, the more you widen your bandwidth, you can get young spirits, old spirits, different varieties of what they did for a living. People in the financial sector, which I am terrible at. People with facts and figures, I am terrible at. People
I laugh because I can relate.
but they still come through, and they use words, and that's why, the same as with the art, when they use words that you don't normally use as your vocabulary, that strengthens that understanding and connection with spirit. When you're giving meanings and you're creating art that you cannot create alone, you know you are working with the spirit.
Now, I know you talk about skill being so important, doing the work. You do the work ahead of the service, right? You're practicing, you're disciplining, you're approaching your work as work you love, as something to put your attention on very intently. So you grow that vocabulary, right? You grow that ability to work with the tool. What I love about what you've just done with autographs is it's a wonderful initiation into the process of art in general, but also into deepening your mediumship, because maybe you don't have all that training just yet to do the portraiture, to bring through spirits features in a way that somebody would understand, but you have this, so you can still bring meaning into your work. So I love this is a wonderful initiation into that. Portraiture is a whole other thing, a whole other way of working with spirit, is it not? Am I right about that?
Yes, very much so. Again, it's a tool, but you know, it's important that we understand that requires work and discipline. I mean, to become a portrait artist takes years and years. And you know, you're painting landscapes, you're doing this, it doesn't matter whether this on the hill here is a few millimeters to the left or the right. It's fine, because it's in a landscape, it still looks that. But if you move an eye to a few millimeters left and right, up and down, it looks nothing like the spirit communicator. So what we have to do is, working with spirit, is we have to have the tools of the trade to allow the spirit world to work through us to bring through that portrait. So if you've drawn 1,000 eyes and 1,000 noses and 1,000 mouths, they can say, oh, well, this mouth goes up at the edge a bit. This was a cheeky person. This person had dimples. This person has this shaped face. Yeah. So they can start to work with you in that way. And that might be an impression with your clairsentience in the moment as you're drawing, or it might be something that's come through with the clairvoyance. It might just be an image that you see a flash of somebody. What's really clever, and the intelligence of the spirit is phenomenal, that they will come forward and they will come through where they can be matched to a photograph, or they can be matched for a memory. And it might not be the age that when they passed. It might be years when they were in their prime. Just in the spirit, the same as when we are here. You want your best side. You want to look good, and it's just the same in the spirit world. They want to come through and they want to look good. Of course they do. It's normal, but they want the eyes, and they want the face, and they want the glint in the eye. But what we're really looking for is that essence of the spirit communicator, that feeling that really gives you that softness within the eye, that caresses within the heart. All these different elements that you can feel that energy of the spirit communicator. So that's what we work on. So the likeness comes with time, but as long as you've got 2 eyes, a nose, and a mouth, you're halfway there. You can start to bring in that person. But there's simple questions: do they wear glasses? What color hair have they got? Have they got any facial hair? What color eyes have they got? All of these questions you can answer very simply. You don't have to say, but they would see it in the drawing. So they can say, I've got glasses. Well, what shape were the glasses? Did they wear them all the time? So through the portraiture, once we've got the facial structure, you can start to bring in that. Did they have rosy cheeks? What sort of face? Did they have any blemishes on the skin? All of these things, we can start to ask those questions to deepen that evidence.
I wonder if, for people that have never done a lot of drawing, and especially the portraiture, and where you talk about things having to be in the exact right spot for recognition, I wonder if people that have not approached this would understand it if we said it's about relationship. What is the relationship between the placement of the eye to the edge of the nose, or you know, the breadth of the, whatever this is called here, to the chin, or you know, those relationships. And I think if we talk about it in terms of relationships through the form, then we would be able to relate to that if we've never drawn as mediums, because we are in relationship with the energy around us and the placement of that energy and how it affects us and brings knowledge forward. So I think then that skill then can come in a way. It's like, oh, this is all I'm doing. So you won't get caught up in the complexity of, I have to draw a line here, it has to be halfway down the head, and it has to have another halfway point, and how does that affect? So you don't get into your head, I suppose, is where I'm going with that, is that you can think of it in terms of your energetic reference point of relationships. Now, I wanted to ask you about how, oh shoot, I lost my track here. So there's so many things I want to ask you. You got started because you were a child who loved to create. You were a child who loved to explore. You had a father who was an artist, so you were kind of immersed in the creative process. Tell us more about your own personal journey of healing and transformation through the years of working with these tools.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very lucky. I'm very, very lucky in the sense that I was shown creativity, and I was drawn to it. I was always given a pencil and some paper, and allowed that freedom just to draw. When I was younger, I started to travel, and you mentioned earlier about the travel and the different things. I'm very lucky in that sense as well, that I originally trained as a chef, so I learned to cook. So I could go, and if I wanted to go and work in France, I went and got a job in France, and I worked as a chef, and I worked my way around the different places I wanted to see. And it was a nice opportunity to understand your own sensitivity and that journey within you. Because when you're stood, and I did a lot of paintings on the spot. I can show you one, actually. It's a nice opportunity. I'd love to see one. So that, I'm
sure our visitors or our viewers will too.
Yeah, sure. So this, if you can see that, this, I used to paint on location. So I'd take the canvas, and I'd take this, and this is one of the only ones I've got left now, actually, but this is in Antibes in the south of France. So I'd go and stand there on the spot, and I'd stand there for, it's called plein air painting, in the UK we call it, or painting on location. So what I got to do is to really feel these different things, and because I'm stood there, it's not like I'm taking a photograph and then I'm going, oh, fantastic view, photograph, and I'm leaving. I'm stood there for probably 3 days for 4 or 5 hours a day, and I'm drawing, and I'm spending time there. People are coming up and talking to me. So I had this opportunity then to really start to feel the places, to feel what the essence of. So what is Antibes like? What is the feeling of the place? What's the essence of the place? So that started to deepen my sensitivity. So I spent a lot of time doing landscape painting. I spent a lot of time doing sports paintings because I was into snowboarding and skateboarding and all these adrenaline sports that really got me hooked. So I wanted to paint those. So I spent a lot of time doing the fine detail on sports people. But this, you know, it's really to understand and feel the rock, feel the age of this, the history of it. So you start to pick up that information because you're spending a lot of time by yourself. You're spending a lot of time painting on location. So that was really where that journey started for me, was starting to go off to different locations and just stand there and paint and have that time to really explore in myself what I was feeling. And to try very hard, try to convey that onto a canvas. So I had to practice to draw. I had to learn to draw. I had to learn how to mix paint, how to travel with big canvases. I did watercolors as well that were a lot smaller and easy to travel, but I love oil paint. I love that connection. So I went from very traditional landscapes and stuff. And then I've got just a couple of others I've probably, if we've got time just to show, that I then went a little bit more abstract in a way. And this is one I finished a few months ago, but it's a journey through meditation. So what we've got is that thing, and the painting process changed for me. So I have a starting point. I had no idea how this picture was going to evolve, but I just allowed it. Each session I sat with it, and it must have been over a few months that I'd get a painting out, I'd do some art with it, I'd do some colour on it, then I'd put it away, and then it would come back out. And so it's a whole journey through that piece of art. But there was only one starting point. And then we said, well, who am I picking up now? Where am I going through this journey of meditation? And then we ended up going, I'm going into the trees and nature, I'm going into these energy circles of energy. I'm picking up people from the spirit. I've got the water, I've got the sky, I've got the cloud, all of these different things that kind of looked a little bit more abstract, looked a little bit more that freedom of mind and that freedom of creativity. And because you've got the freedom to do it in paint without that judgment, I don't think, or I try not to think anymore, is this good? Is this bad? Can I sell this? Those aren't really of interest now. I just try and paint what I feel, because it's that journey through self-discovery, as we were talking about with this, and going through that journey of self-discovery. So although I've been painting for 20 years and my styles have gone very much abstract, very much realism, landscape, portrait, all these different things, and all these different styles of art, I've very much just tried to go on that journey where I try to find something out about myself through each painting, and through each.
Almost like it's emerging from the inside out.
Yeah, it's definitely very much that. And then I think you'll be aware, this is the last one, but it's something that I'm working on recently. And this was an old photograph I found. It's kind of a work in progress, but I'm very interested. My sister passed to spirit a long time ago now, as I'm sure some people will be aware. But I wanted to know that relationship of energy and that relationship, because I feel her presence. I feel that vibration that was her in this physical life, that she's now in the spirit world. But I wanted to turn that into colour. I wanted to turn that into the way that I felt that connection with her. So I had an old photograph of me and her when we were both young. And I started to paint the colours and the energy and those vibrations that I felt around that and how that came about. And again, this painting has gone through a few iterations. Again, it's still a work in progress. It needs a lot more work on it. But it'll just be another journey where I can hopefully strengthen that connection with my own spirituality, with my own journey, and find out a little bit more about my connection with art, creativity, and my connection with the spirit world. So all of these different things have just allowed me that time. But as artists, we spend a lot of time in the silence painting, and I think that is hugely beneficial. Because I can't sit in meditation. I'm not very good at it. I'm terrible at sitting in meditation. But you sit me in front of a blank canvas or some give me some paints, I can sit for hours in silence and just allow that conscious mind to just create something or to flow and drift off, and that is my meditation.
Right, because your brain waves are slowing down into more of a receptive alpha theta kind of state. So that makes sense. And then your skill set allows you to become much more automatic with it. Using the word automatic, have you ever done any work with spirit so it's become automatic, where spirit has actually utilized your physiology to create something without you're in a trance state, right? You build into that state.
This is something very interesting and something that I'm certainly exploring. That it is. Sometimes I draw with the opposite hand, and I know it's not me, because my skills with the opposite hand aren't the same as with my left hand. But very much that feeling of when you are drawing and you're giving mediumship and your hand is moving automatically, that you just feel there's something that isn't me. There's something, because we are working in an altered state. And you look at the great masters' works, or this kind of ideas that come. It's those times when your conscious mind is out of the way and almost the brush is moving instinctively. And they're the little touches within your painting or within the art that is undescribable, but something that just gives it that little bit of magic. So I'm very interested in altered state painting. I'm very interested in coming to see the precipitated art and all of the sisters, the Campbell, all of that is really of great interest. I'm so excited to see that. But very much, yes, I would say there are elements of it when I'm demonstrating. There are elements of that instinctual, or that the spirit has taken over and the spirit is creating something. Or if I'm doing the one-to-ones and I'm talking, or if someone's asked me to do a private commission, I do try to get myself out of the way, and I start with just putting colour on, just moving colour about and seeing what happens, seeing what emerges. More often than not, the face is already there on the paper before we've started. The spirit world know what they're doing. So as much as I can try to develop that and become a better tool for spirit, I will.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I did an exercise with Eileen Davies in our trance workshop. We did
Wonderful.
And we watched that happen throughout the room, where people started to create, went into meditation, started to just put color on paper, and this beauty started to emerge for people, and faces, forms, figures, shapes, and none of us were drawers at that point. So it was really cool to watch that, like you said, the group energy, right? The group energy of the classroom being present and spirit emerging within that space, showing evidence of them being there. It was quite spectacular and quite cool. The other thing that I've experienced, and I'm saying this not because you would need to hear it, but for our listeners, is that when you sit down to try to draw something. So there was an exercise given by Scott Milligan when I was in a trance class with him, and he had us draw a picture of his face. Just look at his face and draw it. And then we went into the place where we didn't have an image of him. He blackened the screen, and then we drew him again from memory. And then we went into a trance/meditative state. And then we came back and we put our pen to the paper and started to draw. And the two first times that I wanted to draw him, according to the exercise, they looked entirely different from each other. They didn't look like him. And then the third time, I kept saying, I don't have his eyes. I don't have his eyes. So no matter whether I had his nose or his face, there was missing the nugget in the eyes. That was his spirit, the identification of who he was. And then I opened up to spirit, asked for spirit support through that process. And I looked down, and the first thing I saw on the page was that, oh my gosh, they gave me his eyes. It's like it captured the essence. And I love that you speak of that word, you rolling back to what we talked about earlier, where the purpose of doing this is to capture the essence of the spirit when you're doing spirit work for other people. So I am just so stoked and excited. I want to take this class. I'm just so can't wait to get there.
It's such a privilege. And yeah, I mean, people like Eileen, people like Scott, fantastic. So it's wonderful. It's wonderful that everyone is bringing in this creativity and allowing people to use their creativity, and just allowing that freedom, because the spirit world won't do it for you, but they will help you. And that's where you can feel that essence, that just that gentle flow of color, that gentle flow of that movement that is that essence of the person. And then the skills come in to strengthen that, to bring that forward, to define it. And that's where the skill of the medium comes in. I feel it's connecting with that natural state and that natural essence of the person, and then we can bring in the detail. But yeah, it is all about the feeling of the person, very much so.
So I'm going to ask another question that I feel our audience might be wanting to ask, and that is about one I hear a lot about when we talk about art spirit comes through. Yes, we've been using that vocabulary. Do you have a guide? I hope that's not a tired question, but there's a lot of people that might be interested in hearing who you're working with, or what your team, how you're conscious of their experience, or do you just immerse yourself in the
I feel, well, I feel my sister very strongly, and before I do anything, I ask the spirit world for help. I ask them for support. I ask them to bring forward what is needed for the room, for the people, or for a particular recipient. Certainly within healing, I'm aware of different frequencies. I'm aware of different energies. Over the years, I've been given different guides that people say are working with me. I've done a few drawings. And what's really interesting, I've done a drawing of once they came through as a female with a red headscarf. Later, I drew them as a male with a red headscarf. So it's interesting how the energy kind of blends, and whether that's my interpretation of the moment, I don't know. But I feel those different energies, and I try to be open and receptive as possible to bring forward what is needed within that moment. I've been asked to draw spirit guides and things, but it's something I'm quite happy to do, but it's not the evidential mediumship that we can quantify. Certainly in the UK, we look for the evidential. The spirit guides, if someone has a strong connection with their guide, then yes, and they know they have an image or something that's come forward, then it's something that can certainly work. For me, I just try to be open, but I certainly ask my sister for help all the time.
Nice. Yeah, it's good to have a familiar. I mean, a spirit that you're really close with, that you can know is there for you when you're expressing yourself. I had two questions that came out of what you were talking about. One of them was, when you're drawing or when you're doing this work, so take the word draw out of it, when you're expressing yourself with this art, do you actually in your mind, I don't think it's as singular as this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Do you actually in your mind see the whole person the way we would see a photograph before you put that portraiture on the page? Or is it a lot like what you were talking about, where you put something in and there's that relationship where something else emerges and now it's talking to you?
I'm going to say both. It depends on the spirit communicator. So if they were a very visual person, or they're a very organized person, they might go, this is what I look like. And that would then tell me something about them as a spirit communicator. It tells me that they're very organized, they're very visual, that they like this, and here's a photograph that will directly match me to the recipient. It will be. So it tells me something if they do it that way. If they come through just with the color, then it tells me something about them, that they're more organic. Or if it comes through with a different style of art. Because earlier on, I wondered why I was painting realistic or photorealism, why I was painting abstract, why I was painting impressionist, why I was going through these different styles of art. And now it turns out, as you're working, that some of the portraits come through in a certain style of art. So they might be a little bit more cubist, or they might be a little bit more impressionist. And it tells me something about the spirit communicator. So I would say certainly it's about what the communicator, how they want to respond and what they want to say, and also their understanding of how it will be received by the recipient. So all I can do is I'm widening the bandwidth as much as possible, So if they want to go, this is me and here's a photograph, and make sure you get it right, and I'm very particular about the shape of my glasses and nose, I know that about the spirit communicator. If they're a bit freer and looser and go, well, really, I'm not bothered, I'm quite happy, I've got this flow of water, I love being out in nature, I've got a dog that was probably more important than the way I looked, I know that that says something about the communicator, and the recipient would understand that about them. If that makes sense.
It makes total sense. In fact, you're probably one of the first people that has been in my head in terms of how you describe this. When I do mediumship, I feel the same way. I feel like how they enter to speak to me in the very first moment is like that red circle on the paper. It's like, you know, it has those crisp edges, the organized person you spoke about, crisp edges. And then somebody else might come in and they come in red, but they come in with that softness around the edges. And it's just how they enter the space with me that is as defining of who they are. And I think for anyone, I think what's powerful about how you explain this is it may be a way of people understanding that aren't mediums to understand what we're experiencing. Because I don't think I'm alone in that at all.
No.
I feel like how you've explained it through art may make it even more relatable to other people in terms of what we do as mediums, regardless of our toolbox or our way of working.
I think very much so, that it's everybody's unique, and the same as everybody in the spirit world, their experiences when they were on the earth plane were unique to them. Their relationships and that vibration, that energy that they had, and that relationship they had to people who are still on the earth plane is unique to them. Not everybody's going to come through with the facts and figures. Not because they're not bothered about that. That's not their passion. And that's why we start with the spirit of somebody, that essence. So exactly as you say, it's just that. They come through in their own way that is unique to them. And our job of the medium is to try, sometimes very, very difficultly, to decipher how they're coming through. But then that goes back to that experience of the medium, that understanding that I can't get the face right. Well, they probably weren't bothered about the face. Or the eyes a bit. Well, they maybe had a lazy eye. I can't get this right. You know, all of these different things. Rather than to say, I'm doing it wrong or I can't do it, it's to say, well, what is the spirit communicator trying to convey? Because we've got such a beautiful connection. And we're constantly connected to spirit. We are spirit. So it's not the connection that's at fault. It's the interpretation with the conscious mind. So widen that bandwidth, open that perspective and say, well, if it doesn't feel right in that way, does it feel right in this way? How can we evolve it? How can it come forward?
Beautiful. I know that your sister passed some time ago. You have created a foundation for her and for other travelers, particularly a way that other travelers can travel safely. Travelers can explore and learn and grow through your grouping of information. You have a website on that. I'm going to link that below for everybody. Is there anything you want to address right now to tell our audience about that? I know recently you were on the program with Willa and Willa White on Wednesday. Is there something that you want to share with us about that on this program?
Well, I think we've touched on it earlier on, just about that. I had the opportunity to travel, and it really opened me up as to realize who I am, what I like and what I don't like. I traveled to Australia 2003 to 2005, and I got to go and stand in the places that my sister Caroline stood in. And I got to stand in the places where I knew she'd been and feel that energy. I also got to finish the journey that she never got to, and go to the places that were on her list that she never got to visit. So that was really special. So I'd say that travel, the motto of the charity is to follow your dreams. It's really, we encourage people to travel, but to do so with safety in mind. So it's really important, and it's such a valuable gift, is the ability and the opportunity to travel, which is so wonderful that we've got in this life. And it can really open up yourself to who you are, push yourself out of your comfort zone, and to see some of the wonders of this world, different cultures, different countries, different ways of looking. Sorry. Sorry, different ways of looking at things.
Yeah, is your book nearby? You wrote a book called Chasing Rainbows, The Stolen Future of Caroline Ann Stuttle.
I did. Oh, you're very kind. Talking about the book, and luckily enough, not planned, but yeah, there's.
Guess who did the art?
Yes, yeah. So I was very lucky that I got to paint the picture.
Yes.
It's got the landscape of Sydney and then the rainbow colours.
I love how you did that with a positive and negative space. That was so cool.
Again, it wasn't me that did it. It was inspired by spirit. I've never painted anything like that since, and I'd never painted anything like that before. So yeah, there's the book.
And if you want to get it, you have a spot on your website where you have a couple really great t-shirt designs, by the way, I noticed. And then you also have your book, and you have some paintings for sale there as well, correct?
Yes, yeah, there's lots of bits. There's some of the artwork that I've created, but everything for the charity, because between me and my sister, everything was always 50-50, and it's just the same, even though she's in the spirit world, that 50% goes to the charity, and obviously I donate all my time to the charity because it's a family-run charity. But it's very important, that work for us, and engaging that next generation to really understand the importance of safe travel, and to go and take the opportunities, because you might go to a place once, you don't know whether you'll go back there again. So really to optimize that opportunity, really take that time to go and experience things.
Have you been to Lilydale before?
No.
Oh, so it's your first time.
I am super excited. Yes. Again, it's about maximizing that opportunity for me. So I do my research. I've been reading about the Bang sisters. I've been reading about Lilydale. I've been reading about the history of it. So hopefully I'll get to really experience it. I think we're coming for a few weeks in total. So we'll do the workshops and have a few days either side to really immerse ourselves and hopefully chat to a lot of people and really experience it. So very, very excited. It's going to be a wonderful week or two.
Well, I could talk to you forever. I'm totally enjoying this. I still have the questions coming up, but I do want to say it's probably time. It's been a while now that we've been speaking. It's just so easy to get taken away by art, and obviously your charm and your ability to express yourself and really explain the depth and scope of what we're dealing with in terms of mediumship, spirituality, and then also expressing that for the healing purposes of other. We could probably do a whole program on the healing. I know we didn't get to touch on that very much. I was hoping to touch on it more, but maybe another time. I want to thank you so much for coming. And those of you that are listening, please do check the links out in the list below. And of course, look into the program. It is sounding like a 4-day cathartic experience that will broaden the scope and tool set that you have as a medium and as a healer. And we all look so forward to having you and Penny in to do this course, Richard. So I do wish you safe travels, and thank you so much for coming in today.
It's my privilege. Thank you ever so much for inviting me.
And listeners, tune in as we continue with our other Wednesday night shows here coming up to season to provide you a conversation with the Lilydale mediums. And stay tuned to Lilydale Radio. May you all have a blessed day. There we go.